the PDP recently inaugurated 40 new BOT members, described as a move to stabilize and reposition the party. Now, from your assessment, is this renewal symbolic or strategic?
Well, we give it to PDP. You know, some things are just natural when humans or even animals age. A lot tells on it. The ability to do things. You find that in humans, when people grow old, they tend to sometimes do things like babies, and they have to be guided. But it's unfortunate that in the political sphere, such is not supposed to happen, because there is supposed to be an inherent ability for regeneration. As old members, founding members grow old and become weak and do no longer have aspirations, they must have groomed new set of persons who have to emulate them, take over from them, and sustain what is supposed to be a legacy of excellence. Sharon, as far as this country is concerned, the party, one could say, had a true national reflection and also had an agenda, an ideology, happens to be the People's Democratic Party, because it was not formed as a party. It was formed as a group called G34. And it will interest you to know that the most notable figures at that formative stage are not the people some may want to claim or brand as people who are always hungry for power, that they don't know any other thing than grabbing political power just for the essence of having power. Now, you have Dr. Alex Ekweme, who was a Southeasterner, former vice president under Shehu Shagari, 1979, yes. Now, we had somebody like architect Obong Victor Tar, who, from information available, was a person that even designed the logo, the umbrella of the PDP, and I think possibly the slogan, and others. They were the frontliners, and then it metamorphosed to becoming a political party, not just to grab power, but to replace the military, who citizens really wanted them to be out of the leadership trajectory of Nigeria. And so, plus and minus, because of some very powerful persons, they had to go to prison or back to the house to bring out a man who was not part of the formation of the G34, who, except it was a prophecy that was made to him privately that he would leave prison and become the president, which was something that would have been very remote. He himself wouldn't have believed it. But it happened to Olusegun Obasanjo. He was brought out of prison, and in an attempt for the same crop of persons who frustrated the winner of the 1983 presidential election, talking about Bashorun Kashimawo, Olawale, Abiola, MK Abiola, they said they need to appease the West. In appeasing the West, a PDP gave their ticket to a Southwesterner, and it was a consensus that the wickedness that was done to Abiola, and call it directly the West, for not have given their son the opportunity to lead after winning the election, the next powerful opposition or party, or call it wasn't opposition as at then, party, gave their own ticket to another Southwesterner, Chibolufale. So we had two major contenders from the Southwest, and it was unanimous that a Southwesterner has to emerge, and Obasanjo emerged. However, there has always complained about rigging, but that's not even the issue now. The issue is that Obasanjo won. Going forward, let's fast forward to first term, second term, and the attempt of Obasanjo looking for third term, and Atiku Abubakar, who had won as a governor of Adamawa State, he was asked to come and deputize because he was of the structure of a man called Shehu Musa Yaradua, who was one of the most powerful politicians in the North. You know, he was a member of that bloc called People's Democratic Movement. I had a stint in the movement because in Uyo Federal Constituency, I was the spokesperson of the movement for Uyo Federal Constituency. So Atiku became the vice president. Another person, I think his deputy, became the governor of Adamawa State. One thing led to another. After the first term, second term, the battle was so fierce, they fell apart, and then PDP had issues because a number of governors were in support of Atiku succeeding Obasanjo. They were not comfortable, and they went to the polls during the nomination. And the kind of conduct that took place was such that, from what we heard from the grapevine, any governor that voted and states as they voted in the nomination for the candidate for the second term of Obasanjo in the PDP were marked. And after the nomination, some of those governors that voted against Obasanjo and actually voted for another person were singled out to be dealt with, and some of them were actually dealt with, and some of them even moved to another party, created another party, like Joseph Kalu formed a political party. Yes. Lamisia was in trouble. You go to Plateau State, Joshua Darie was in trouble. You come to Akwa Ibom, Obon Victor Tar, who was very, very clear about his position. I think that was the first time I saw our father wore jeans. I think he wore jeans on that night to go and vote. He was looking very combative, and so he survived the Obasanjo hurricane. Obasanjo himself finally tore the membership card of PDP. Fast forward to Jonathan, who emerged as president. Eventually, after mismanaging the success, I call it mismanagement because if Jonathan was strong on issues, President Buhari would have found it very difficult to be cleared by INEC. He would have found it very difficult or even impossible, because you cannot clear somebody who could not provide the list of the paper qualification that is required. But trust how things are in the country. People took advantage, and by the time he finished, he could not provide the leadership for PDP to be sustained as a party that has produced two former presidents, several Senate presidents, several governors. At the point, I think 2007, they had as many as almost 28 to 30 governors in the country. They swept the entire Southwest. So what happened to PDP? What happened to PDP was that people we just discovered were too selfish. Only very few of them, like Abomota, that were selfless. Even as a PDP life trustee, he had to fight. He had to fight the sitting president to get the right for Akwa Ibom people, which is something you don't find now. You don't find now where are those crop of governors, like Chris Ekpenyong, former deputy governor, former senator, said the other day, say we have the weak crop of governors in Nigeria now. Even 2 days ago, at the book launch of Sule Lamido, Amechi said openly on the mic that he talked with Lamido and told Lamido, during our tenure as governors, what is going on in the country now under President Tinubu, would we have allowed it to continue? And he said no. And he said it openly, that it won't happen, because they have the capacity to bring their voice to the table and said, this is illegal, this is unconstitutional. In as much as they overdid it along the line, during Jonathan's time, is one of those things, yes, but we don't have the crop of governors who are there to defend either both the constitution and the people. Why? Because there is an aura, very gigantic giant, some there, that's the image you have seen from a distance. I don't want to get close to it. They say you have to do obeisance if you must survive. So people, without even seeing the image, without even knowing what the figure is, they start crawling, prostrating, lifting up their hands and surrendering and all that. So that is what has befallen the PDP, that their former leaders, from the president to some Senate presidents who emerged, they refused to give PDP leadership. They had their errors, yes, but they do so bad that compared to the opposition, those that used to call themselves progressives, giving hope to the hopeless, that there's an alternative party on the sideline that is ready to give a better leadership than a PDP. They emerged in the scene, but majorly through propaganda, and the propaganda had to sustain everything to the point that it has gotten now where it is just obvious, like former information minister used to say, that Nigeria, he himself said it, it wasn't the opposition that coined, they said Nigeria is not in a one-chance boss, so don't say APC is a one-chance boss. He's the one that said it, he's the one that countered it, because the role swap between PDP as a leading ruling party and the APC, which was a conglomeration of other opposition small parties, AC, ACN, CPC, ANPP, and the new PDP, which is still part of the crisis, the greatest undoing of PDP, was the emergence of new PDP, who left the convention grounds to go and form alliance, and with just one single stroke, they gave the opposition party a swap. And that role swap has affected democracy adversely, because no other party, no other set of people could play the opposition role like the one that was led by Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Generally in the southwest, generally, and in the north by Buhari, former President Buhari. But you know, the most formidable opposition leader has been the man called Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, because he has both the media, he has the men on ground, they have the courage, they are not timid, they don't fear anything. In fact, fear even fears them enough that role swap has brought us to this precipice. And what is supposed to be the fallout, the solution to it? Because there is no question without an answer. The solution will have been PDP reinventing itself to be able to get power back from Buhari that they made to win because of their coalition. They tricked themselves. They committed suicide in 2023. When against their own constitution, when against even the decision of the both opposition governors, APC and PDP governors all agreed that power must shift to the south. But some very selfish, I don't know what to describe such human beings, including the one that hosted the meeting. At least the meeting was hosted in the Asaba Declaration. The next one was held in Lagos, and it was just a walkover. We are going to have a Southerner as president. It doesn't matter who that would be. After all, we had the two major people who emerged. There were others, but the two major people were one, Peter Obi, who was frightened or chased out of PDP, and he went and picked the Labour Party ticket. Labour Party was nowhere in the radar, but because they needed to take up what they now call vehicle, the obedient movement, which was something that has never happened in the history of this country. Never happened. I've lived for a while by the grace of God. Now, the next was Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who, by even abstaining from debate, had shown that it is dangerous to give power. Even by the statements made by his aides, even by the state of health during campaigns, it was obvious. That's why you saw the video that they were singing. Baba we know well. They shouted me look. People made mockery of him. I did not make mockery of him because I know who Tinubu is. I'm a Lagos breed person. I had part of my primary and secondary schools in Lagos, and I've been a conscious soul for a long time by the grace of God. And I said, people have to be careful. It's not just enough. You see this man doing as if he's doing skit. He means whatever moves he makes, and he does not care who you are. What he wants he has to get it, and for you to stop him, you must do much more than him. And the rest is history. Because of what? PDP refused to adhere to their constitution. And some, should I call them wicked or very two self-centered human beings decided to go and say, a northerner has got to replace a northerner. We don't care. Zoning is in party, is not in the country. And I just looked at them and said, thank God you have showed the world who you are. This very seed you have grown, you will sit. Some of you will stay back to harvest and eat it. And that is what has happened. They denied the South opportunity to produce a president, presidential candidate. And by this time, who was the leading figure in the PDP? It was Wike, a governor. Or like some would call it, like now we will have said, a common governor. He led PDP, funded PDP. However he did it, posterity will reveal some things. How he managed to fund PDP. How he managed to be able to change chairman at will just to be sure that the party, the direction, when it gets to the time of the South, they will have that slot. And somebody came from Dubai. And some persons that were here. One of them was sponsored by Wike or funded majorly by Wike when he also aspired to be president. Talking about Tambuwal, which what Wike has said. It's in public domain. And when the chance was there for him to reciprocate the kind gesture of Wike, Tambuwal, after they have done their manifesto presentations, and they saw that Wike was too much on ground, they granted him a second slot to come back and speak at the convention. Something that should never have happened. And he said, I have withdrawn. My supporters, vote for Atiku Abubakar. And by the time they finished, with the national chairman, who had agreed that if the presidential ticket goes to the north, he will relinquish. Atiku, who bought the ticket even before the party did the official announcement of zoning, which was just obvious. What are we talking about? The PDP committed suicide. And what is to happen is that it must be a magic. It's going to be magical for them to be able to reinvent themselves. And is that possible? Yes.
Okay.
It's very well possible that they can pull a surprise, and that is the story left to be told.